Good morning, folks. Wiley here. Today I am going to do a little bit of oil painting, and I'm working on one of these paintings that I've started to celebrate the upcoming 250th birthday of historic Ellicott City, Maryland. And this is one of the last two that I began, number 49 and 50 of these paintings. And this is done on site, plein air, whatever it is you want to call it, painting outdoors. And it's done in a monochromatic underpainting with burnt umber. And the colors I've got here are very gloomy. It's a winter scene, so I'm not going to talk about setting up a palette or really much else. I'm just going to dive in and paint so you can see one of my many varied techniques, apparently. I have a little medium here. The medium I use, even after I say I'm not going to talk about materials, I've got to give you a little clue, is Galkyd Light. I sometimes mix this with a very small amount of the Gamasol, which is a paint thinner, odorless paint thinner. I also have a cup of the Gamasol here just for cleaning brushes, a couple of paper towels on hand, and an array of other materials off camera. So let's begin. First thing I'm going to do is get a little bit of this medium. Perhaps, I think this is cobalt blue. Get a knife here. Spread a little bit of little cheer there. Maybe a little bit of yellow ochre because I want this to be a winter sky. So you see I'm looking for a kind of a fairly dull gray blue winter sky. So a bit more blue, certainly a lot more white. Keep stirring it about. Wow, I need a lot of white. And a little bit more of this yellow ochre. See how that deadens that color? Grays it out, gives it a little bit of a green. A little bit of a green here, so I'm going to use up all my yellow. Looks like I'm going to use up all my white. See what we got. All right, so a little bit of medium. Load the brush up. I'm just going to kind of scrub this color in the sky around all these brown bits. Now this is a little bit different way of painting maybe than you're used to. Of course, the question will come up why don't I just paint the sky first and paint all the other elements on top of that? And there is a reason for that. First of all, you start out with this monochromatic underpainting, so it doesn't really work that way. And secondly, when you paint the sky back in paintings where you have existing elements and everything is not smooth and perfect and perfect, you get these little peekaboo edges, little hide and seek edges that give life to your painting. It's so easy to overdo, overwork, overfinish things. And people, when painting, sometimes they fall into that trap of wanting to make everything smooth and nice and cover all the edges like you're painting some woodwork in your house. And this is not the way to do painting if you want to come up with something charming and interesting. So I'll just keep muddling along, filling in the sky here and there. And this is a chance to block out any of these wayward elements that I don't care for. And this is just a base color. I'll come back later probably and scrub some lights on the bottoms once it's dry, to give it some light in the background. But for now, this is just a base color which gets rid of that glaring white. So forgive me for not always talking and telling you what I'm doing. I do want to concentrate. And that's not always easy to do if you're running your mouth instead of just painting. So let me just have at it for a couple of minutes. people, when mixing colors, it seems that they're always concerned that they mix enough color. Now, I almost never mix enough color, and I have to go back and mix more, make up more to match more or less. And people overmix and mix up more than they need because they're so afraid they can't match it. But you know, the colors don't need to match perfectly. You know, you get a little green blue, a little blue green, a little white gray here and there, and it adds life to your subject. You know, we're not looking for perfection here. We're looking for interesting. Oh, looks like this is going to be a long video, but it can't take as much time as it took to set up the darn camera and lighting to my satisfaction. I think I must have worked on it for 2 hours. But that's life. You want to make things look good. Not always easy to figure out what the best setup is. Making a lot of noise with this brush because I'm painting on a coarse canvas. My canvas is 18 by 18 inches. I usually paint on real smooth boards, but for some reason I got in my mind that I wanted to use the canvases this time. Okay, so that's about it. Now, once again, folks are gonna look at these little dots and go, oh, you gotta fix that, you gotta fix that. No, you don't. Leave it. Well, maybe I'll fix that one. Just leave it. All right, so let's see. We tuck the sky in down here where the porch of this building is and behind these other buildings. And we might come in here and just float a little bit or scrub a little bit of this blue in the background trees, like the sky can peek through a little bit. It'll make sense once I go back in and plug the trees in. All right, so there we go. All right, also, you know, we get a little reflectivity, so might do a little blue on the sidewalk here. Just a little bit. You see, my brush is almost out of paint. And this is one more lesson here. You don't need to always have your brush overloaded. I try to get students used to the idea of putting paint on the brush and letting a little bit more paint, even as I say that, getting the paint on the brush and letting it run out as you work. So you get that sort of just barely there, you know, a little bit of barely there color. Same over here in the middle of the road, perhaps. Etc. And then in this side, maybe a little bit more medium. On this side of the hill, it's probably going to be slightly in shadow. So, and this is a winter scene, so we've got a little snow on the ground. So, I painted this back in. I think, I guess it was around the middle of February. So it was winter, and here it is. I don't know, a week and a half after spring. And I'm painting winter. All right, so that's pretty much it for the sky. Let's see, where else are we? Gonna clean off my brush, and I always clean off the brush on a towel, then the paint thinner, then the towel again. And what that does is it keeps your paint thinner from getting full of paint too early in the process. Okay, so let's see. We got this house. Over here, I got a little Payne's Gray, I think, here somewhere. I'm gonna make up a little bit of a glaze, which is a thin application of color. So you see how I do that? Maybe a little bit more color. See how I do that? And the drawing, or the underpainting that exists shows through. So we're not completely painting over it, we're just toning it, replacing it in shadow here. See how that works? The paint, this is a building that no longer exists, so I know I painted on site, and I guess you could say this is a tale of history and imagination, because I'm painting the history, but I'm also remembering that this ancient cabin was here, so I'm filling it in where it no longer exists. The stone foundation is still there, so I could figure out exactly where it all went. All right, so we just kind of roughly put that in shadow. What else I got? Got a little, maybe a little shadow. We'll use this Payne's Gray on the street. See how loosely I'm holding my brush? That's what you want to do. You do not want to choke up on the brush and get all bogged down in detail at this point. You're just putting in large areas of color. And all I can say at this point is, well, I hope I remember to press the record button, you know, because sometimes you forget. All right, so this is also a street going down to the main road. So I'm going to use a little bit of this color here, not as much, because this is not paved. It's just gravel and dirt and crap. So a little less strong on the Payne's Gray color. All right, we'll blend these here a little bit where they kind of go together. All right, so same thing with these telephone poles, and I'm going to use a little burnt umber, a little Payne's Gray, a little blue. Yeah, nice ugly brown, dirty telephone pole color. So go in. Yeah, look how loosely I'm holding this brush. Letting that pole kind of let that paint kind of wiggle around, let the paint kind of move around. I'm sorry, the brush kind of move around, because these poles are not machined aluminum poles like you see on the highway. These are 100-year-old poles that are just sort of, you know, big pine trees that have been shaped, and they tend to taper a little bit at the top and, you know, get thinner. I'm sorry, thicker at the bottom. So do these cross members. Color, once again, doesn't necessarily match, doesn't matter. It's close enough. All right, so we got the pole in. I guess I'll do this. I think this is a tree trunk over here. Use that same sort of color. Maybe add a little bit more brown. I maybe just stick a little blue in there to gray that down. See how that works? And just keep coming back and forth. See these paint, with oil paint, it's wet, so your other colors just sort of merge around the edges. You don't want to go back and make it too perfect too many times. You don't want to just keep painting until, you know, everything's all smoothed out and makes you happy, because it'll just be too much going on. Too much unnecessary. Just unnecessary. Blur this telephone pole into the background. Now, most people would at this point be tempted to reach for the smaller brush because it's a smaller pole, but I've always found that the best way to work is to use the biggest brush you can get away with until it's just too big, and then reach for the next size down. You know, learn to paint with these larger brushes. There we go. Let's see, what else we got here? We got this porch post. We may as well hit that a little bit. And even as I have this color, I might come in and hit this siding a couple of places. Maybe these stones, perhaps this edge of the roof here. You know, any little color here and there. And I'm going to go back to this pole here and just use a little bit more of that. See that light coming in there? A little bit more, and maybe less down here, because the light is going to be up here and then subside as it goes closer to the ground. All right, what do we got? Let's see, a little blue. Yeah, a little blue in the street. I'm going to fuzz out these edges. using a variety of both thin, transparent, and thick, opaque paint, you know, to kind of, so everything doesn't look too uniform. All right, what else we got? Maybe we'll drag a little white in this sidewalk up here. Lighten it up a little bit. Maybe a little more white. Where's our white? See, we get that light going on. Okay, this house is white clapboard siding, so I'm gonna just block that in. That's the shadow side. Here's the front. You see I'm just painting over the shingles, the windows, everything, and just kind of pushing it all together, Again, using transparent paint, so I don't obliterate the drawing completely, but helps tone things. This is a separate little building here. Little nondescript two-story building. Not much to it, really. Oops, too much white. So we'll just take the paper towel. Again, this is the shadow side, so I don't want it to be too bright. And then let's see. Once again, here's a little building. Used to be, I don't know, somebody lived there, and I think it was a saw sharpening business. This building is long gone. So once again, here we go with a tale of history and imagination. I'm remembering, or I'm reimagining, or remembering, what it is you want to call it, the building that's long gone. And this building was funny. It kind of sat on Main Street here. And it had this little post kind of in the back. That's probably why it's not there anymore. The post rotted and the building fell into the creek behind it. All right, so we got that pretty developed. Oh, let's see. Let's work on this background. I think I got some green here. Here we go. We got some green here somewhere, and well, too strong. So nasty that up a little bit with some other color. Now, and again, too much transparent. So too much color. So I'm going to spread that out roughly. Now, I don't want this to be a really strong green. This is just a little bit of maybe spring coming. You know, trees aren't brown or green or whatever. They're all sorts of yuck in the winter. There are all sorts of grays and blues and greens and browns and tans and just a little bit of everything. So let's tuck a little brown in there, a little more of this green. Easy on the green. I do not want this to look like, you know, some kind of forest coming along, but just enough to keep that reddish brown. It's just enough to cut that reddish brown. See how that works? A little more there. I've done all this with one brush, as you may have noticed. All right, where are we? Oh, let's tuck just a little bit of green just in the brush here. You know, there's always some kind of plant that just hangs on through winter. I don't know what it is. Or maybe it's just starting to green up again. There was a bunch of grass that's really low. Oh, actually, I remember now. They were raspberry bushes, raspberry canes that were hanging on for dear life here through the winter. They're just stalks. So we'll just tuck a little bit of that in there like that. All right. What do we got? Clean the brush. All right, and then I'm going to go back to this tree right over here. Let's see, we got to get a little bit of this burnt umber. Same old deal, a little bit of the blue, a little bit of the green. We got it all going on. And I'll kind of start up here and drag this color down to start to shape this tree. So it's a large one. Go down like that. There's actually a number of trees in here, but it's not that necessary to paint a tree and go, there's a tree, so much as it is necessary to just suggest these intertwining branches and trunks. You know, that may or may not be all that well defined. Obviously, this is a larger tree, so you know, as it goes down, it has to get a little bulkier trunk. And there you go. I think I'll darken it up a little bit, maybe. Yeah. Now I've gone over my rail here, so I use this little rubber tool. See, I just scrape that out there. In fact, I might go back, clean this up a little bit around these edges where I glazed over that area. Okay, let's see, where would this be? Maybe one right there. You can also use this tool. See how that works? See, I can just sort of put these little bits, these little scratches. I can come in and clean out these windows if I can figure out which ones are windows. I don't remember. To look at the photograph. I take reference photographs when I work so that when I am back in the studio, I can figure out what I was attempting to do. All right, I've got some pure white here on this brush. I'm just gonna sort of lay, see that? Look how easy and how, again, wobbly, a little on the porch here. Gonna lay some snow in here. A little more complicated up here because we have this roof line. And they have these 4 dormers, so we have these triangular parts, little medium. All right, we have these triangular parts here. See that? Where you have these roof dormers. And then you have the roof in the background with the chimneys on top. So you just kind of rough around that. We'll come back and clean up later. But you get the idea. This little roof corner comes down about like that, maybe not quite that much. So you see how that works? There you go. I'm gonna put snow on the porch roof down here. Maybe right here. Again, remembering this little cottage. And of course on the little saw sharpening shop. All right, and then, oh, I don't know, maybe just a touch on the pole, a touch in the trees. Look how lightly I'm gonna do this, just the touches where the snow might lay in the crevices of the tree here and there, and just little bits where it's laying out on the filigree, the minutia of detail of the twigs. And the same thing up here. Again, trying to imagine these as fully developed limbs. See how I use the growth upward movement there? See how I'm not even painting this complete limb. I'm just doing these little suggestions. And you see what happens? It blends into that sky. Look how nice that works. And same thing with this tree. Use that, maybe blur some of these edges, maybe tuck a little bit of pure white down here where we might be getting a little bit more light, maybe here. Okay, what do we got? Let's see, do I want to scrape out? Nah, don't want to do that. Not in that section. Just some more. Again, pulling these areas toward the tree. Okay. What else we got? All right, now I guess I will switch to a slightly smaller brush. I don't know if that's going to be it. We'll see. I'm going to mix up a little burnt umber, a little gray, and I'm going to come in here and just do some more branch detailing. Again, trying to think about how the nature of that tree's growth would be. And note that I'm not trying to connect every little branch to that trunk. These are just hide and seek. You know, the viewer's brain will observe and draw their own conclusions about, you know, what's tree and what's sky and what's snow and what is what in general. So it's a good idea now and then to look at where you might have placed some snow, for example, here, and just tuck a little branch underneath here and there. No big deal. Take a little bit of stronger umber here, perhaps. And do some dashes, some shorter sections. I don't know if this is where twigs are coming together, or perhaps it's some leaves left over from last year. I don't know. But I'm just put some dots and dashes in there. Again, holding the brush very loosely. Okay, we got a little dark under these roof lines. You see, well, we've got that color out there. I'm gonna blur that. We want to use it. Darken under this porch here. Maybe tuck another shadow line underneath some of these boards. Now, this cabin was built of rough sawn wood. And interestingly, there were no two boards the same width. The economics of that time meant that they just cut a tree and sometimes left the raw edge of the bark intact and, you know, used it for siding. If you trimmed it off, that was waste. All right, so I'm going to use this, again, this brown. I'm going to tuck in some twigs. See how I'm going to add a little bit of paint thinner to make that paint really thin. See, I'm very lightly touching, a little too much paint thinner, off the brush. See, I'm lightly touching this. Darn. Just be patient. There we go. Be patient, Wiley. There we go. See, we're doing these little twigs, these little whatevers they are, growing up. Same thing in the road. Same thing over here, perhaps. Might want to look at these arching raspberry bushes and sort of tuck the bottoms of them. See, I'm actually doing detail now. Tuck the bottoms of them into the ground, so they're actually planted. All right, so there we go. Now, let's see, clean out that brush. Reach for an even smaller brush. Go back to our white and just put the smallest amount of the snow arcing across these raspberry canes. Canes? Yeah, canes. Canes is what's that? That's stained glass metal. The metal between stained glass panels is canes. These are canes. All right, get your terminology right, Wiley. All right, here's some little dots and dashes of snow clinging to God knows what over here. See that? Maybe even on the trees. I'm just tapping that into place. Maybe a little on this side. See how nice that is? Even on the pole. I'm going to use it over here for some light. All right. Let's see, maybe. Again, little bits here. Small amounts. See, I'm just like tapping it flat. But look at the character that adds. Snow has melted down the hill. Perhaps it's refrozen overnight. You know, and you get all these little bits of ice here and there, unless you don't have all that detail down here, because again, this is further away. You just have the suggestion of it. So the more detail back here is the way to go. All right, now perhaps just tap a little bit on to break up that sidewalk, that flatness of that color. And back here where there's more light, I'm really gonna lighten this up. See that? You're not gonna see all these little bits, it just all fuzzes together back here because it's further away. I'm probably showing you the top of my head, sorry. Kind of leaning there to get the job done. All right, there we go. Oh, so let's see. I think maybe one more thing today. We can find some burnt sienna. Well, I don't see any, so I don't feel like looking for it. So I'm gonna take a little bit of this transparent orange color and perhaps mix it. A little bit of burnt umber. Give myself a little bit of a chimney color. I don't want to use this too strongly up here because I like this chimney, the dark. And then over here, I'm gonna try to figure out, let's see, these are, you see this is a lighter chimney. This comes down into the roof line a little bit. I don't know if that's a chimney or not, but I'm putting it there anyway. Because I know there's 4 chimneys on this house. So you see, these are the side of the chimney facing the light. And then over here, we'll go back to our burnt umber, make a darker brick color, and paint the dark side where it goes up on the part of the roof, down the other side. See how that works? And I don't know, I don't remember if this one had a chimney or not. Let's clean this up a little bit. Get my perspective slightly corrected. But let's see, I want to tuck a little white siding in here. And then I think they had a little bit of I don't know, let's see, I want to say they were a dark blue-green shutter, so I'm going to go in here, mix up this sort of dull blue-green and tuck in these, I forget which is window and which is shutter, so I'm just going to put the shutters left and right of these dark areas because I think those are the windows. So here we have 1 shutter, we have 2 together here, then 1. So it's just sort of, back here it's very simple. Same thing here, try to align, shutter, shutter, and then this is probably a door. So shutter, and then maybe a door. So you just sort of somewhat attempt to, what's the saying, as above, so below. You want to kind of reflect or mirror below what you've done above. To clean off my shutters have gone too low, so let me clean those up a little bit without messing up too much else. And I don't know, let's see, let's do a little window here, a little underneath the porch detail. I mean, not porch, underneath this eave detail. Window, 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 door. Same thing, window, 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 door, maybe like that. A little color in that window, and so on. Now, this is by no means a finished painting, although it's getting close. I plan to come back later, do some more detailing, clean up just a few of these things that stick out maybe just a little bit too much. And I'll come back and probably do another video doing all the finishing touches, but it's largely done. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna work on the road a little bit, but mostly I'm gonna wait until the next time when all of this is dry, because I'll need to kind of tuck in between these bits of raspberry branches a little better than I can do while it's wet. So I'll hit it a little bit so you get the idea, because I don't want that road to be quite so dark. It's wet. It's wet from the snow and the car tires dragging moisture back and forth, and it freezes over in the night, etc. So we'll leave that for another day. Okay, thanks for watching. I guess that's my first oil painting demonstration, and we'll see you next time.